feel comfortable, do you want rather go back with the marker and actually put it on this? Yeah, because you can take that link and make that well.
My name's Tor Bendiksen. I'm the president and manager of Reidars Trawl Game Marine Supply here in New Bedford, Massachusetts. And we supply fishing nets and scallop gear to the community here in New Bedford and other cities and towns up and down the northeast of the United States. When it comes to my background in fishing and learning in fishing, I guess it's about seeking out. When my basic start was with family, of course. You observe what your family's doing and you want to help out and pitch in, and they teach you little techniques, the basics. So my father with a needle down the basement, shows you how to tie the knot and how to set up a piece of twine, those sort of things. So those are those little basic things. So once that kind of took hold and I'm like, wow, this is cool, I can actually create something, which was what was all about, was like the creation of something from nothing. I just started, anywhere I saw it, I just kind of wanted to go and connect, observe it, and look and try to figure it out. And so all this stuff was just fascinating to me on where it all come from and developed from. So I grabbed knowledge from anywhere I could. The style of nets that I designed today is so vastly different than what I grew up learning. I go back to those basic nets that we learned when I was a kid. The very common net that people used back in the 80s was what they called a Yankee net. And the Yankee net was only because it was designed by a guy up here north, and they learned how to cut all the parts of the net out of one big sheet of netting without having any waste. So they got that general shape of a Yankee net, and that was the 80s. But they were just very, very basic nets based on the twine they had and how to not have waste. So when I started looking at the scene, I started looking at net plans and finding out what they were using these different types of nets for, and then finding net plans from other parts of the world and how they were developing nets. I started paying attention to these cuts, these ratios, what they were doing, how they were baiting netting together, how they were shaping the wings and the bellies and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like asking questions to the other guys that are more advanced to me. And I'm like, why you do this? Why you do that? And they started saying, oh, well, species of fish, this fish does this and this one does that, and we do this to create this. And I started learning the technique of actually what the shape of the net can create underwater to herd the fish in. And from there, I was sort of hooked in learning how, okay, now I didn't design based on this sheet of netting anymore. I started developing based on making sure the angles and the shape of the netting is proper. I started looking at the nets as they were coming back to the shop to repair, and I started seeing certain areas that were worn, and I'm like, well, okay, if we change how this goes together, that goes together, how this is cut, we might not have as much wear, it might last longer, it might not tear out. And then I started paying attention to what the fishermen were saying, what they would see on the net when I'd make the adjustments, and that kind of started my basic development of what you can do to a net to achieve what you needed, certain head rope heights, certain spreads, certain abrasion and strength areas based on what they were trying to achieve with hard bottom, soft bottom, sandy bottom, So that was like the basics. And then from there, you utilize how the fish react to the trawl, and you start making the trawl to try and selectively catch species now. So now you're designing a trawl that might be a very high-rise net that actually catches haddock, where things like codfish are on the bottom. You let the codfish go out the bottom and only catch the haddock. You have like the Japanese style of building a net, which is, they call it based on the frame, which is they develop a frame. All right, I want this net to be 60 by 80 by this by that, and they put netting into it. And then you have the Scandinavian design, which is I'm going to use the strain lines of the netting itself to create the net opening. So based on what I'm looking to do, I can kind of go one way versus another. So it's very, very cool, very unique that I've gotten to like learn those two different techniques and then apply it to what I know today. We have several places around the world that can actually do model scale testing of trawls. Awesome facilities to actually get a window on the ocean that you don't normally see. You put the model in the test tank, you can measure the head rope height, you can measure the wingtip spread, you can measure contact on bottom, and you can make the changes on the trawl and see the reaction very quickly. Within hours, you can have several different simulations to see what it does. And then you take that back to full scale to the vessels and you tell them the options that they can do. And they report back that it's pretty accurate to what you do on the model scale, what actually happens on the full-size net offshore. So we've done the work with the trawl doors themselves, which is the steel that actually is like big airplane wings that actually spread the nets open. So we've done the work on the doors. I've even done some work recently with scallop dredges, trying to make a scallop dredge maybe much lighter so it's not digging into the bottom as much, but can still do the same job as the heavier dredge. And so we've done all kinds of research work on dredges too in recent times. I'm so ingrained in the fishing community that I've never really, considered doing anything else other than fishing. Have I ever thought about maybe doing what I do here, other parts of the world, other parts of the country? Yes, I've thought of that at times, especially when I get overtaxed on the needs of the community, and you get stressed out. Sometimes you want to go someplace and just not think about it and just sew nets. But as far as my identity, as far as the fishing industry, it's a job that I've always loved growing up, and so no, I don't think I've ever considered doing another job other than working, in the fishing community. It's just kind of grained in me, and I've taken to it, and it's stuff that I love to do every single day and love to continue to learn about. So, yeah.